Hello and welcome to our first tutorial, and in this particular tutorial we are going to look at this question, which has the instructions that we want to see that we cover in this particular tutorial. We have a question here stating or asking us to create a database using any database management system of our choice, and that we should call the database Kasale Limited. And just coming down here, we have a list of instructions that we are supposed to execute. So we are asked to create a table and save it as employee table in the database, and then after that we are supposed to enter the records in that table. Now I've just listed here a few things to note, and the first one is how to create a table, a database. So we are going to look at how to create a database. Then the second thing, we are going to look at how to create a table in that database. We are also going to look at how to create or add the fields in the table. Then we are going to have a look through the choice of appropriate data types for each field. Then finally we are going to look at how to enter the records into the table. So that is going to be our task for today, particularly as we look at this question. And let's have the start. So we are now going to look at the first instruction, which is creating a database with a name Kasale Limited. And to create a database, we still follow the same steps that we use or that we follow when we are starting a Word document or a spreadsheet program or a presentation program. And still here we are going to go to the start and locate our program that we are going to use, that is Access. We can scroll down through the programs that have been used of recent and try to find Access. In case it takes a long time to locate it, we can as well search for it, or we can still locate it under Microsoft Office because it's an Office program. It's right here, Access 2016, and there our program has started. So we are going to create a blank database. So we choose blank. Then the database name is Kasale Limited. Kasale Limited. Then after we browse to where we are going to save our database, it's going to be saved on the desktop for this case. So I save it with that name Kasale Limited, and there you go, my database has been saved. So I create, and when database appears, it appears with a default table because it's the default object of a database, and so a table has to appear. Now it's upon us to go and save this table the way they've told us, but also remember that a table appears with the datasheet view and with one default field, which is ID. But remember that in our fields in the question we don't have a field called ID. That means we have to modify this table and save it as we have been told to save. So we are going to change the name of this table and as well add the fields that we have in our question. So we go and change its view to design view, because it's in design view where we are able to add the fields and as well assign them the data types. So they told us the table name must be employee table, so we come and give it the name employee table and save it. So there you go, our table is now in design view. So here in design view we can now start adding the fields. The first field is called employee ID, so we come and add employee ID. And then if we check in the question here, our second our second field is first name, then we have last name, we have date of birth, and we have residence. So we come and add them. So the second field is first name, then we have last name, then we have date of birth, and finally we have residence. Now the second task we have is to assign the appropriate data types. For the first field, when you look at the data we're going to enter, it contains both letters and numbers. That implies we have to make a choice of a data type that can satisfy both the letters and the numbers. And if we look through the list of data types that we have, it's text that can satisfy this. So we go and assign it text. And in this case, it's going to be short text. A name is a text, last name is a text. Then for date of birth, basically it has to be date and time. That's the only data type that can work for that particular field. And once we ensure that we have finished adding all the fields plus their correct data types, then we go and choose the primary key. We look through the fields that we have and look for that field that can uniquely identify the records in the table. And if we check through, then it's employee ID that can only be assigned the primary key. So you come and assign a primary key, and indeed it's already here. Once this symbol over key appears, then you know that field has been assigned a primary key. So finally we come and view our table in datasheet view, and there you go, our table has appeared with all the records, with all the fields. So we are now tasked to do the second instruction, and that is adding the records to the table. So we go and look at our records and start adding them. When you check, the first record is called MGM001. The first name is Davis, last name is Lutakome, date of birth is 15th of November 1980, and the residence is Mawito. So we go to our database and add that record. So the record is MGM/001. First name is Davis, the last name is Lutakome, and date of birth is 15th of November 1980. The residence is Mowaito. So that is our first record added. Now we go on to add all the other records as. So now we can see that our table has been already populated with all our records as assigned in the question. And so at this point we are now done with the points that we highlighted in our question. We have looked at how to create a database. We have looked at how to create a table in the database. We have also looked at how to create all other fields in the table. We have looked at how to choose the data types for the fields, and then finally how to enter the records into the table. So with that, we come to the end of our first question in database, and I'm sure that at least everyone has been able to understand the basic or the starting point for database. Welcome to our second tutorial of this particular topic, database. In the previous tutorial, we ended by creating a table, assigning the data types, and adding the records. Now in this particular tutorial, we are going to look at one more new thing, and that is the field formats. Like our question is here, we are going to look at how to format the fields so that the data appears the way it is appearing right here. And the other one thing we are going to look at is how to set auto number as a data type for a particular field. Now just to remind us, we only use auto numbers in a field as a data type when the data therein is consecutively increasing. For example, here we have MGM001 and the numbers are increasing consecutively up to 8. So that means we can actually save that field, or we can assign it auto number as a data type. And when you look at our date here, it has a particular format with which it's appearing, and therefore it's upon us to also go and set our date to appear the way it is here. Now let's go to our table. We already know how to create a table and other fields. Now let's go and try to format these fields to appear or to contain the same data that is contained or in our table, to appear the way they are appearing in the table. So we start with the employee ID, and we said we want to assign this one here an auto number. So we go and choose auto number. But for you to save the auto number, remember this field here, after assigning it auto number, we won't be able to type in it. Database will have to auto increment it as we continue typing in the other fields. So to set its format to appear the way it's appearing the other side, we have the 4 characters that are appearing consistently, that is MGM and then the stroke. So for us to also keep them consistent here, we create the double quotes, type them in MGM and then the stroke. We know those are our characters that are going to appear consistently without changing. Then we close the quotes, and then for the 3 last characters, that is 001 to 008, we simply add 3 zeros. Each 0 is representing 1 place value. That is how we set the auto numbers for that particular field. Then we go to date of birth. When we look at our date of birth, its format is in day, month and time, but the month is appearing as digits and not words. So we also go and set the format for the date. So our date is appearing as day, being represented by 2 digits, a dash, then month represented by 2 digits. So we put MM. The MM represents the 2 digits. If we put 3 M's, then the month is going to appear with the first 3 letters of the month. If we put 4 M's, then it's going to appear with the whole name of the month, for example, the whole word January. And then the year is represented by 4 characters, so we put Y, 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 Y to represent the 4 place values for the date. So we go, after setting that, we are done with setting the format for the date and also setting the auto numbers. So we go and view our table, and then we try, if now you come back to the table here, you will see that where there is employee ID, there is now no chance for you to add the field or to type in what is supposed to be there, but database will do it itself. So for our first record in the table, we have still Davis Lutakome, 15th of November 1980, Mawito. So we come and type in for our Davis in our database. So we have Davis as the first record, and the moment you type in, you can see MGM has appeared. The second name is Lutakome. Date of birth is 15th of November 1980, and the residence is Mawito. So you can really see that here MGM has typed in itself, and here the date of birth is now having the real format that we have in our table. So we go on to type in all the records and fill up our table. So there our question is, our table has been created with all the fields added in it. The records have also been added and with appropriate formats, and the data types are also correct. So our major emphasis in this particular tutorial today, we had setting the formats for the different fields, and setting the format for auto numbers. So that's what we have done, and I'm sure we have achieved our goal for today. So that brings us to the end of this tutorial, and let's wait for the next tutorial.